Now, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has announced key revenue measures expected to shore up Ghana's struggling economy. Presenting the 2023 budget to Parliament, the embattled minister touted the budget as one which will put the country on the path of economic growth, despite the minority insisting this budget will compound the woes of Ghanaians. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kojo Asante has this report from Parliament.
The days leading up to this presentation were tense. This was on the back of 98 NPP MPs threatening to boycott the presentation if it was made by embattled Ken Ofori-Atta. With that out of the way and the censure motion hanging, Ken Ofori-Atta delivered what many have described as the most consequential budget in the nation's recent history. He announced an increase in the VAT rate and a review of the controversial e-levy.
One, increased VAT rate by 2.5%. to directly support our roads and digitalization agenda. Fast-track the implementation of the Unified Property Rate Platform Program in 2023 and review the e-Levy Act and more specifically, reduce the headline rate from 1.5% to 1% of the transaction value as well as the removal of the daily threshold.
Feeding grants for the school feeding program is also set to go up.
In 2023, the feeding grant will be increased to reflect the current cost of living.
The big elephant in the room has been debt restructuring. The minister provided an update.
We'll implement a debt exchange program to address the challenges identified in the portfolio in collaboration with all relevant stakeholders, including the Ghanaian public, investor community, bilateral countries, and development partners, and foreign bond investors.
Ken Ofori-Atta also announced further spending cuts, including a freeze in public sector employment.
All MDAs, MMDAs, and SOEs are directed to reduce fuel allocations to political appointees and heads of MDAs, MMDAs, and SOEs by 50%. A ban, Mr. Speaker, on the use of V8s or V6s or its equivalent except for cross-country travel. Reduction of expenditure on appointments, including salary freezes, together with suspension of certain allowances like housing, utilities, and clothing. A hiring freeze for civil and public servants. No new government agency shall be established in 2023. Government cares deeply about our people and is very concerned about the current plight and the future of our country.
The minority were not enthused about the presentation.
So, Mr. Speaker, this budget is a campaign budget. A campaign because he has announced debt restructuring in the name of a debt exchange program.
Ranking member on the Finance Committee, Dr. Kisela Tuforsin, claimed this budget will worsen the plight of Ghanaians.
The dose they gave to us today, if care is not taken, will result in our economy dying. But let me tell you, this budget is going to be a severe budget that is going to introduce extreme austerity in the year 2023. I can only urge the people of Ghana that brace up for maximum hardship, worse than what we've gone through in 1979 and 1983. That is going to happen because the budget as read today is nothing but an intensive and severe, and I repeat the word severe, hardship that they have introduced.
The 2023 budget was uncharacteristic in many ways. It did not come with the usual cheers and GS that MPs will be doing on the floor of Parliament. Indeed, when the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, finished speaking, the usual way of the majority MPs standing up to cheer him and praise him did not come. This may be due to the fact that 98 NPP MPs did not want the minister to present the budget until a late meeting with the Council of Elders changed that decision. But the minority have now signaled their intention to frustrate the passage of some of the key revenue measures that Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta announced. It is left to be seen now that the various strands of the budget have now been referred to the committees of Parliament, the Finance Committee and other such standing and select committees. In the coming days, MPs will be debating the policies that the minister has outlined in the 2023 budget. For JoyNews, Kojo Asante, Parliament House.
Now, there's been mixed reactions towards the 2023 budget statement presented by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. In Kumasi, for instance, while some people are confident of a positive overturn of the country's economic fortunes, others are dissatisfied with the value-added tax going up by 2.5%. Love FM's Emmanuel Bright Kweku has been interacting with some residents.
Bibia kakra bibia say 1.5 for the about 1.0 na kakra say no more economy so a no be how we see it.
Let's take things gradually. They started with 1.5% and now it's been decreased. Then it's good. Fuel is an essential commodity running the economy, so if it's high, prices of goods will go up.
Say crying any say no form kakra but na say no me say
the statement won't help. We are hoping things will be subsidized. Every item on the market now is expensive. If the VAT is introduced, it won't help.
Now student baby cry the G20 baby the G18 we say no we pa ye fema na say stay say betutu no mama kan ho a yes dollars in baby akohye bi omo e na nkofom ne hu nso ntoye nti sade a baby ka ko ne on kra konfo bebe mu
Tajo for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah na this you hunu kese pa obai we en region bia no you see shelves a ye store enuane.
Dr. Kwame Nkrumah established a lot of preservation factories for the country. So if the government wants to build more factories to produce locally, then we will be able to harvest more and feed ourselves.
Feed yourself, grandpa, a champ on the buy and I yet watching no. That's not for.
I got to say, oh, you never know boy and economy dia and you give it me a jatum.
If the government would only institute these measures, then we would agree to the budget
statement. We hope
everything gets back to normal.
Worldwide crash and but Ubia dear, Ubia so on it.
I don't know, Papa, when the cast of Kumi Sapa power and the casa vati kumi preko. Divata some credits as worker, and that's what the background as what.
As the president, not the same person who said VAT kills, he has to cancel it. If they introduce the VAT, there will be a lot of suffering. He placed income tax on fuel. How has that helped? Who rules a nation without income tax?
What the income tax I check out for the to petrol so and the intimento. Now by Bena, what you check on my our the income tax. Not just a crown fit time of us or mine.
11 the beginning crown we and sa and come money pan baby Nantias. So on common man bafum no the start here and I can now crown a costruca cra and Kabuai.
If they had started the e-levy on a lower rate, people wouldn't have agitated. But where they started was too high. That's why people complained. They are the ones running the country's affairs. I'm not sure they will institute measures to hurt us.
Let's now show you the exact measures outlined to shore up Ghana's struggling economy as put together by our research desk here at JoyNews. Now, if you look at the measures that the minister announced, it brought some revenue measures. Now, one of them is that value-added tax, VAT, will be increased from 12.5% to 15.5% now because he added 2.5%. That's the addition that has been added to the already 12.5 there. E-levy rate will now be reduced to 1.5%, while the daily threshold will be removed. So you will no longer pay 1.5%, but you will be paying 1% now. Now, the 1% concessional rate will be increased to 5%. These are some of the revenue measures. Continue that taxes on cigarette and tobacco product will be revised. Excise rate for spirit will be revised above that of beers. Electronic smoking devices and liquids will be taxed. So that is, those are some of the measures as well. It continues to say that the benchmark discount policy will be fully phased out in 2023. So that for importers. Now, So e-levy is now, in the measures that were contained there, it is 1%. So it has reduced from the 1.5 we used to know to 1% now. Now, Professor John Gachi is Dean of the School of Business, University of Cape Coast. He joins us on Zoom now for some interaction on this budget. Prof, first of all, the government brought up some revenue measures. But let's look at what impact this will have on the ordinary Ghanaian.
Well, I think the impact is known. It will increase prices across board. Every commodity has VAT element in it. Fuel has VAT in it. Hotel bills have VAT in it. So almost everything is going to go up now.
Not even when they are reducing, say, for example, the e-levy and all of that, it won't affect anything, right?
The e-levy is not reduced. It's only recalibrated to ensure that much more people are caught up with the tax. So you reduce the e-levy from 1.5 to 1%, but now there is no limit of the transaction. The base has been collapsed.
Okay.
So even if you transact with 10 cedis, you are paying the e-levy. So that is to say that there is the law of small numbers and the law of large numbers. So if large number of people are paying the tax, cumulatively, government is expected to rake in more revenue.
Okay. Now, we know that every austerity measure has a timeline. That was missing from the addition of the 2.5% VAT. Or this is not the case. Is that something that we can't say is the same, so we should be given a timeline to this measure? Is it different?
Well, normally, when some taxes are introduced, there is an exit clause attached to it. But the VAT that have been introduced, there's no exit clause attached to it. Therefore, we assume that it stands to remain as it is.
But it's not something you bring in when you know you are going through difficult times, so that when you are out of it, you can take it off. Why aren't we seeing something like this with the addition of the 2.5%?
I think normally that applies to things that are not normally taxed. For example, you recall the reconstruction levy. I believe you recall that tax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that tax is not per se a tax, but it's just a call on businesses to contribute additionally to what they are contributing to solve the problem. So after some time, that tax will be called off from our books. So that is what we call the exit clause. But when a normal tax is just increased, it doesn't normally follow with a sunset clause.
Oh, okay. All right then. Now, Prof, kindly hold for us, because we understand that there are, in this whole budget presentation, other people have come up with other things, and we need to get you to help us understand this. Now, we can confirm that government is set to suspend interest payment for domestic bondholders and impose a 30% haircut on foreign bonds. Speaking exclusively to JoyNews after the presentation of the 2023 budget, Deputy Finance Minister John Kuma explained that under the debt restructuring arrangement, domestic bondholders will receive zero interest rate for 2023.
We are calling it debt exchange program because as far as the domestic restructuring is concerned, we don't intend to make domestic investors lose on their principals. But at the moment, when you invest in Ghana markets, where the market stands today, investors are losing. If you go to your investor today, EDC or EcoBank or Databank or whatever, for your 1 million Ghana cedis investment today, you may get maybe 40 or 50% of the value. So you're already losing. Now government is coming in to say, let's exchange that debt and spread it for 3 years. But in the course of the program, your first year, you're going to get 0 interest. Your principal is secured. Because the market is weak, you're already losing about 50% of the value. So wait, and let's revamp the economy by standing still your interest for first year. Second year, maybe we give you 5%. It's still not fully completed. Then maybe the third year, you get 10% on your capital. So by the end of the third year, you would have gotten back your principal plus interest without collapsing the economy. That is why there was important need to call it a debt exchange program and not a debt restructuring with a haircut mentality that he's talking about. So clearly, this is a very well-structured program to protect investors and protect the domestic. And of course, you know that currently where we stand, we don't have access to the international capital market. And so we also have to protect the domestic market. So everything we are doing, we have in mind to also protect domestic investment. And that is why we are not calling it haircut or domestic.
Just for clarity, for those who are holding domestic investors, yes, who are holding government-denominated bonds, treasury bill, does it include that? It's not. So only bonds, yes, only bonds, government and others. Yes. You're saying that the arrangement you will come to
debt exchange program, which will be announced fully very soon,
is that so what about those who have a 5-year program? A 5-year bond,
it's all part of it.
So, are you extending the maturity date?
Obviously, to help the market revive and restore, so that you get the value back. Because today, and anytime you invest, it's 2 things: you either gain on your investment or you lose.
Well, so that's the Deputy Finance Minister, but the ministry has released a statement to clarify their position on debt restructuring. According to them, the process is still underway. It says that the Ministry of Finance provides the following update on the progress of technical work on possible debt operations as part of ongoing negotiations with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, or the fund. This update follows a statement made on the site of the presentation of the 2023 budget in Parliament on Thursday, 24th November 2022. Now, as stated in the budget speech by the Honorable Minister for Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, the government of Ghana is contemplating a debt operation aimed at alleviating the pressures on the national budget and restoring debt sustainability. This would also open up financing streams and provide needed balance of payment support from the fund. Details of the different layers of a debt operation, including the terms of principal payment and interest on the public debt, are still being discussed, taking into account principles of debt sustainability and international best practices. Now, Prof, this is what the ministry is saying after the Deputy Minister had given us indication that there won't be any interest payment for 2023. What do you make of what's happening?
So what is happening is clearly debt restructuring with all its forms. You are losing on the maturity, so the maturity is extended. Interest is lost. So the 2 elements of debt restructuring are all in place. But look at who is talking. The one who has who is indebted to the financial institutions, etc., to bondholders and so forth and so on, is the one who is claiming that he has now put in place policy to stop investors from receiving interest. We have not heard of any negotiation. So it's like a bullying tactics.
Well, but the finance ministry says that we have not finished the process. When we are done, we will give the update. So it looks like what the deputy minister said is not what's going to happen. That's what the statement wants to clarify, isn't it?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. And again, I think what the deputy minister said that it's a debt exchange program is totally false. What are you exchanging the debt for. When you are exchanging something, you exchange A for B. In this case, what are we exchanging for? So it's purely debt restructuring, and people are receiving the heavy haircut that is meted out to them. That is simply the case. I don't know why the government is afraid talking about debt restructuring.
Okay.
So clearly we are into debt restructuring.
Okay. Grateful to you, Professor John Gachi, for joining us. He is Dean of the School of Business, University of Cape Coast. Now to another story. A new study by the Ghana Statistical Service has revealed that more than half of Ghana's 30.8 million population is obese. The Ghana Obesity Survey revealed that more than 50% of Ghanaians are overweight. In comparison, about 85% do not eat healthily. The survey employed 3,380 respondents as a sample size drawn from 3 major cities in Ghana: Accra, Kumasi, and Tamale. It considered variables such as height and weight to determine the obesity level of these people. Obesity and health, overweight and obesity are defined as abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that may impair health. That's according to the World Health Organization. In 2016, more than 1.9 million adults aged 18 years and older were overweight, of which 650 million adults were obese. Thus, about 13% of the world's adult population, 11% of men and 15% of women were obese as at 2016. An estimate on children by WHO, that's WHO in 2019, also showed that 38.2% million children were obese. Let's see these graphics for a better appreciation of this survey put out by the Ghana Statistical Service. Okay. Now, let's speak to a health expert to find out what this means in particular for the Ghanaian health-wise. How about the ability to work and make income? Joining me on Zoom is Dr. Maxwell Besala Conlan, who is a senior dietitian at the University of Ghana Hospital. Doc, grateful that you could join us. If you look at the statistics, these are worrying, but what really does it mean to me as a Ghanaian?
All right, thank you so much this morning for having me. My name is Maxwell Bisala Conlan, and I'm a dietitian and not a medical doctor. So I'm a registered dietitian with the University of Ghana Hospital. Now, with regards to the report, what it means is that a lot of Ghanaians are getting obese, and that is a worry. I'm not actually surprised about this, the outcome of this survey, because in 2016, Ofori Asensio et al. Also did a similar research. And what they found out was that almost about 40% of Ghanaians were either overweight or obese. And so if the current study confirms that it's now 50%, I'm not surprised at all. It means that over the past few years, our obesity prevalence has been increasing. And it all boils down to what we are eating as Ghanaians. And this has implications on the outcome of our health. And when you are obese, you are exposed to a lot of diseases like diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, among others. And when this happens, it can expose you to a lot of diseases on long term, and that can have an impact on the outcome of your health.
So if we are not eating right, what is accounting for it? Is it changing lifestyle, or what is it? Can we pinpoint something?
Well, it's a multifactorial factors. One has to do with our lack of physical activity. A lot of us are now sitting at desks. Gone are those days when we used to go to the farm and work. People are getting cars and they are driving. They don't want to work anymore. So these are all part of the problems. But one other thing I want to point out from my experience from the clinic and among our Ghanaian people has to do with our food. A lot of us, our food is almost more than 70% carbohydrates. And when you look at the nature of a Ghanaian food, if you are not someone who is very keen on controlling your portions, if you are going to eat so much as we eat as Ghanaians, you will definitely have an excess weight gain. And for some people, the obesity is actually adored. I mean, they actually want it. So sometimes you have patients in the hospital who come and tell you that they don't want to lose weight anymore because people are complaining. So in our context, it's an adult thing, and I think it's also one of the things we need to educate people about.
So if I understand you, if we should make exercising part of our daily routine, we will be able to overcome this. Hello, Doc. Did you hear my question? Okay. Okay, so let's try and bring you, the graphical representation of what the Ghana Statistical Service put out there so that you appreciate it better. Now, according to the World Health Organization, obesity is a high risk factor for non-communicable disease. Obesity accounted for approximately 2.8 million deaths from non-communicable diseases, and more than 1.9 billion adults aged 18 years and older are overweight, of which 650 million adults are obese. Now, according to the statistics, 13% of the world's adult population are overweight and obese. 38.2 million children are also obese. Obesity kills more people than underweight, and so you need to check all of that. Now, persons have 113% chance of being hospitalized. That's if you are an obese person. You also have 74% more likely to be admitted to the intensive care unit, and 48% are more likely to die. And this by the Harvard University Review. If you look at the graphics on your screen there, it tells you that we're looking at the total care expenses of diabetic patients in Ghana. As of 2019, the amount of money we spent on them, that was around 1,241,799 cedis. If you look at 2020, that amount jumped to 2,049,423 cedis. So that's the monies we are spending on catering for diabetic patients in Ghana. 2021, it reduced to 9,438. That's a huge reduction there. And then in 2022, we have not ended the year, but that's 388. Well, so that's the factors as put out by the Ghana Statistical Service. So let's return to Dr. Conlan, and he's a dietitian with the University of Ghana Medical Hospital. Doc, so what is the impact of this on the personal income of Ghanaians?
Right. So, I mean, diabetes and obesity are very key problems. So, obesity can actually lead to diabetes. And when you look at the cost of expenditure of treating diabetes, it's gone up because the cost of medications are higher now. So a lot of patients are unable to afford their medications. Now, when you put diabetes aside, let's come to blood pressure, which you are likely to get because of the excess weight. So when you get blood pressure, you are going to spend more money on medications. And the cost of medications have also gone up. Because clinic, I had a patient who, said he couldn't afford the medications anymore because of the BP and the levels are going. And so you are likely to spend almost 50% of the income of the household on the drugs.
Interesting. I'm grateful to you, Doc, for giving us the time to join us here. Now, let's take you up north, where what always comes to mind when the name of Paga is mentioned is that Crocodile Pond. However, Kumausa, located in the Solar Tuna Kalba district of the Savannah region, also has an abundance maze of crocodiles. The crocodiles are regarded as their totems and are forbidden as food. When they are seen in their homes, it is a signal that one of the elders of their community will pass on in the coming days. JoyNews' Upper West Regional correspondent Rafiq Salam traveled to the pond and report crocodiles, though not tamed, are harmless.
The Kolma Crocodile Pond has been in existence for centuries, according to tour guide Justice Nudawana.
The origin of these crocodiles can be traced at the time there was a war between Babatu and Samori. You know, Babotu and Samori were slave raiders. So our great-grandfather was chased by warriors. He arrived at the deeper stream that he needed to cross. An object appeared from the water like a piece of wood. He sat on it and it took him across the water. When the enemies got to the stream and they were trying to cross, they rather drawn inside the stream. It is then that he turned and realized that what he was sitting on was actually not a piece of wood, but a crocodile. So he said none of his descendants would take the meat of a crocodile.
Since then, it is a taboo for members of the community to take the meat of a crocodile. The crocodiles are regarded as their totems and are therefore harmless.
Unknowingly, if you hear the aroma of that of a crocodile, you develop boils on your body. We have a pond in the community where they fetch the water and they mix with some concoctions to rub the body, and then the boils will go away. And then again, in case an indigenous elder is going to pass away in the community or outside the community, one of these animals will move from the pond to any household in the community. So when elders see this way, they know that something is going to happen in the community. And then normally, it's not necessarily where the person is going to pass away that it will go to. By 3 to 4 days' time, it will come back to the pond. And while in the community, it doesn't harm anybody. It can be in your kitchen, it can be in your compound for the 3 days or 4 days before coming back to the pond again.
Despite the eloquent display of knowledge on the crocodiles by the tour guide, we still had doubts about their existence, and we decided to visit the pond to see for ourselves. Members of the Kolomanga Tourism Committee initially were reluctant and had doubts about the appearance of the crocodiles outside the pond because of the timing. It was on a Friday. The sun was at a zenith and scorchy. There was complete silence around the pond area except the chirping of birds. The tour guide, Jesus Nudawana, appears with a chicken on hand and started calling on the crocodiles. Few minutes later, Lady's Luck smiled on us and we saw some sort of turbulence on the rather calm pond.
Nabalwana! Nabalwana!
The biggest and the oldest, for that matter, in top speed, swam out of the pond and ordered to lie on the bare stony rough sand.
See that's coming. Can you tell to stop?
Naval. Naval Jambi.
You can see that it has stopped based on that instruction that telling the crocodile to stop, and it lie down.
The over 80-year-old grandfather crocodile was accompanied by other 70 smaller crocodiles, but they stayed at the periphery, watching how things will pan out. In fact, they served as guards.
I've seen you when we got here. You were saying, Nabalawana, Nabalawana. What is that?
That is my grandfather come. My grandfather come in the local language. When you say Nabale, that is my grandpa. Wana means come. And it's a long union between the community and then the animals. Over here, we believe that the crocodiles are our totems.
Can I come here alone?
If you come here alone and then call,
if I say Nabalawana, will it come?
It will not come.
Because I'm not a member of the community?
Yes, even the tour guide.
Okay.
Even those who are members of the community, if you come here on ordinary days, say Nabalawana, it listens to the voice. So if not one of the tour guides, it will never come, or the manager.
Okay. The tour guide holding the chicken was being granted the interview. The hungry grandfather crocodile began to run out of patience and few times made some gestures, but the tour guide wouldn't budge. When the chicken was finally thrown at it, the rather calm crocodile became aggressively ferocious and missed it. It was directed to go back to pick it. There are over 100 crocodiles, we are told, in this pond per statistics from the last census conducted.
In the year 2012, we had experts from Germany and the USA. They came down with their machines to assist us to do the census. After the census, we had 97 animals in the pond. And outside the pond,
we are talking about crocodiles.
Crocodiles. Okay. We counted 97 crocodiles, and then outside the pond, we counted 7.
The tour guide appeals to the government through the Ministry of Tourism, Creative Arts and Culture to help fence the pond and also provide recreational facilities to boost up tourism in the area.
You see that the animals are not tame because the place is not fenced. If only we get a support to fence the pond, we can train them for people to sit on them and even touch them. And then again, when tourists come to the pond, where to sit sometimes is a problem. So if only we can get summer huts around the pond, it will help boost the tourism activities in the community.
A view equally shared by the president of the Koloma Youth Association.
We want to appeal to organizations, particularly those into natural conservation, to come and dredge this pond. As you can see, those days, all of this place used to be water. But you can see that now it has been silted. And so we are appealing to organizations to come to our aid to try to dredge this pond for us. Thank you.
So we have crocodiles here at Kolomasa. And so the next time you are passing by on the Kumasiba Road, at least just take a peep at Kolomasa and come to this pond. You see these crocodiles here. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Kolmaha.
And in Accra, I am Samuel Kojo. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with business. Stay with us.
Hi, welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Deputy Commissioner for Shraj, Mercy Labi, has announced that a business-related human rights policy will be rolled out by the middle of next year. Speaking at the National Action Plan Conference in Accra, she said the plan is to reduce human rights abuses associated with businesses. There's more in this report.
The National Action Plan, inaugurated in 2021 by Shraj in collaboration with major stakeholders in the business industry, is aimed at enhancing Ghanaian businesses to meet international standards with respect to human rights. Victor Kweku-Brobe, chairperson of the National Steering Committee, in a presentation explained that Shraj will adopt project assessment mechanisms to ensure that people's rights are not abused at the workplace.
The human rights due diligence, which will be mandatory, will be monitored by Shraj, and Shraj will develop a process by which it will be able to rate the extent to which a company takes into account human rights when it is undertaking its operations, and even develop a rating system for various companies to indicate their levels of compliance. So in addition to just having the input assessment, Shraj will be able to tell you whether you are a grade A or AA or a B+ level human rights compliant entity.
He also mentioned that the implementation of the policy will enable Ghanaian workers seek legal actions when their rights are being infringed upon at the workplace.
And so we are hoping that this process would, at the very least, develop a legal regime that would allow for ordinary Ghanaians at all levels to be able to enforce their rights when they are violated against corporate actors.
Deputy Commissioner for Shraj, Mercy Labi, in an interview, indicated that the plan was in collaboration with key stakeholders of the industry to find an effective approach to the compliance of the policy.
The proposals, if they go all over the country and it's accepted, compliance, like before you start your business, before they register your business, come to Shraj and let's assess your human rights. Let's see your human rights policies in your document before your business is registered. Before the government gives you a contract, go to Shraj and get a human rights certificate, compliance certificate. So you come and we assess your businesses and look at your human rights issues, and then we'll give you human rights compliance certificates before the contract is given to you. So if we put that in place and you come and Shraj is assessing you, you have to know that yes, you are looking at this, you are doing that, and then you are human rights compliant, therefore you can conduct business in the country.
Maria Jelenate, the director in charge of human rights at Shraj, called on stakeholders to help in the effective implementation of the policy.
The National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights is to ensure that corporate institutions also have their role to play when it comes to enjoyment of human rights, in the sense that sometimes the work they do impacts on the enjoyment of rights of the communities they operate in. And so we are developing this plan to mitigate the human rights impacts communities and to provide a guide towards ensuring that some of the human rights violations may not even happen again.
A report by Stephen Mensah and Esther Nkrumah.
In other news, Open Forum on Agric Biotechnology in Africa, OFAB, has organized a workshop for clergymen to educate them on the benefits of biotechnology for Ghana and clarify issues about the technology. Speaking at the training, research scientist at the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, Dr. Daniel Osel-Fosu, indicated that religious leaders play a vital role in the level of acceptance of genetically modified organisms by the public.
Research scientists believe it is appropriate that the nation facilitates the processes for the acceptance of biotechnology to enhance food security, given the emerging threats to agricultural productivity. However, most Ghanaians are not receptive of the idea of consuming genetically modified organisms. Scientists are optimistic that constant education will help change the perception. Hence, the Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology in Africa held a training session for religious leaders.
Previously, when you speak this kind of science, it's a no-go area for them. But today, after my presentation, I could realize that they have understood the technology. Most of the time, people behave in a certain way when they don't understand the issue. So after my presentation, I realized that most of them are receptive to the technology, and from the body language I saw, they have understood that it is a way that scientists are helping to make food available for all of us.
After a few presentations, some participants of the workshop pledged to pass on the knowledge acquired to their congregants.
With this knowledge, I could, use some of them as illustrations, and through that, I could pass on the information to them. And also by putting together forums that I could invite the facilitators to come and also, propagate the information about GNO. Of course, I was discussing with one of the organizers whether it's possible to have him speak to the university, the Methodist University community, and of course my parish, about GMOs.
I have just had a days of presentation, which I understand. So if I have the opportunity, I'll call the experts to come and then do justice to the topic for my congregants. I think that all hands should be on deck to make sure that GMO is embraced so that we can have a very good yield going forward.
Meanwhile, Principal Investigator of PBR Cowpea at the CSIR Savannah Agricultural Research Institute, Dr. Jerry Imbonyine, shared the status of work done on the GM crop.
For the PBR, let me say PBR BT cowpea in Ghana, we now have a permit for environmental release. And because we have that permit, we've started multi-locational trials in the whole of northern Ghana. So we have trials that were set up in the 5 regions to introduce the material to farmers. Farmers planted it for the first time on their farm, and they were able to experience how the plant performs. They saw the yield advantage of that particular cowpea compared to the traditional ones that they have. So far, this is where we are, and we are hoping that after this year's work, we should be able to prepare to apply for varietal release with the National Varietal Release Committee.
And that's business. There's more coming up after this break. Do stay tuned.
Oh, let's talk tech, and Kobe Spikey is already in the studio with the latest. Hi, Kobe.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
Good. What do we have today?
So we still have for about 2-3 weeks, a month continuously, Elon Musk and Twitter in the news. Because since he took over, there's been a lot of changes he's been making. And number one in that is Elon Musk is restoring the accounts of people that were hitherto suspended.
Okay.
Number one being...
So, Trump is one.
Yes, Trump is coming back. But is he coming back? Question is, when Trump was banned from Twitter, he created his own social media network called Truth Social. And as a result, he might not be coming back to Twitter. Because if he's trying to get his followers to follow him on Truth Social and basically interact with him there, what's to say they would go to Twitter if he goes back to Twitter and starts posting there? Why am I following you on Truth Social if you're on Twitter posting on Twitter? So, yeah.
So, but we have people following others on Twitter and Facebook and all of that.
He created it because he was banned.
Okay.
And so his followers who are loyal are following him there on Truth Social because, yes, we don't like Twitter because they are banning people who tell the truth. Right?
Okay.
He tells the truth.
Okay.
So, yeah. That's
All
right. And he also has money to lose because there are investments, coming into Truth Social, and it's a whole economics thing and stocks trading and stuff. A lot of acquisitions and stuff going on in the background.
Okay.
I'm not a finance person, but that's also part of the reason why he's not coming back. Because if he does, it's probably going to cause the value of his platform to go down, and he may not make the money that he's. And he's all about the money. Right? This Donald Trump we're talking about. He's all about the money.
Just as Elon Musk is.
Exactly. They are all about the money. So that's what's happening on Twitter and why he's not coming back. And also, furthermore in that, Twitter will start manually verifying accounts. Okay. There's going to be 3 tiers. So there's going to be blue, there's going to be gold, and there's going to be gray. So blue for people of interest, people who are, how do you put them?
Influencers.
Influential people like you. You would get a blue tick. And then you have the gold for companies. And then you have gray for government, right? So now you can differentiate. So if you see blue, it's an individual. If you see gold, it's a company. If you see gray, it's for a government.
All right.
And they're going to be doing it manually.
Okay.
It's going to be tedious, considering that they fired a lot of people. And then finally, if you are getting yourself a latest Mercedes-Benz and you want to go faster, you have to pay a subscription fee.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm grateful for that information. And that's it for Tech Talk. And that's how we wrap up the bulletin. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo. Brace to enjoy the rest of our programs. Have a great day.